these people who are suing self-defenders, they are
people.
they are scumbags. They are
There.
such scumbags because it'll be like, hey, you know what? I robbed your liquor store and you shot me, and now I'm in a wheelchair. I'm gonna sue you in the liquor store.
Right. We are the Armed Attorneys. Today we are here desperately spreading the good word of new good law. What if you shoot someone, that person comes back and sues you? What's there to protect you? Well, not much now, but we've got an idea and it's rolling forward. So before we get started, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting the like button. And Richard, we're going to stop lawfare.
Yeah, that's the theme of this. You think about, all right, you got the criminal side of things. Maybe you were forced to defend yourself. You're acquitted by a jury. Maybe the prosecutor dismissed the case. Maybe a grand jury no billed you.
Sure.
Maybe the police even declined to file charges because it was so clear cut. Well, guess what? We got this other monster here sticking its head out, and our experience lately is it's been destroying folks here in the Lone Star State, and that's our civil system, and it's really out of control.
It is out of control. And so here's the problem. Here's the problem. In the great state of Texas, we already have something you may have in your state as well, which is a protection from having to pay civil damages if you act in lawful self-defense. So you would say to yourself, all right, I defend myself, I kill somebody, or I seriously injure them. They file a lawsuit against me. Well, as soon as it gets determined that I was acting in justified self-defense, I don't have to pay them any money. Why are they filing those lawsuits? Why are they filing those lawsuits, Richard?
It's nuisance. And that's what the whole lawfare, that's what lawfare is all about.
Yeah.
It's not about actually winning the lawsuit. It's about the process is the punishment.
It's causing damage along the way.
Yes. And so, we have this in Texas. If you want to check it out, it's chapter 83 of our civil practice and remedies code. And again, just says if you're justified, you're immune from damages. And what does that look like? A jury at the end of a trial would be instructed, hey, did this person act in accordance with Chapter 9 or justification statutes? If the answer is yes, you have to assign $0 in damages. Fantastic. Yep. Well, guess how long it takes to get to trial? Years, oftentimes. It's really long. And in the meantime, you're having to respond to this. You're going to have to answer questions. You're having depositions. You're having motions. Maybe your attorney's having to appear in court and all this stuff. Guess what? That costs a ton of money. And plaintiffs' lawyers have kind of figured that out and say, okay, instead of paying this big chunk of money, maybe we just give a little bit.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, is that years in this context translates to hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe upwards of $1 million. So it is a ton of money. So how do people pay that? Well, one of two things happens. So this is why the plaintiff's bar is actually filing these lawsuits, is that they plead the lawsuit as a negligence action. And so that invokes your insurance carrier.
Yeah, if it happened in your home, your homeowners, it happened in your car, it's your car insurance.
Do you have an umbrella policy?
Yep.
I do.
Yeah.
Right? So there are lots of ways that your insurance can get invoked here. And when that happens, the insurance company does that nuisance evaluation. They say, okay, we've agreed to defend this and we're looking at it, and okay, what are policy limits? All right, we'll pay you $50,000. We'll pay you $100,000. And so the plaintiff's lawyers just rubbing their little hands together because there is absolutely zero work for them in getting an early settlement. They get a huge chunk of change, and then they're ready to file the next nuisance lawsuit. Now, that's one way it goes. The other way it goes is you don't have insurance, or the insurance wises up and doesn't pick it up, right?
Right. And then you're left to your own devices to furnish a defense for this, hire an attorney, and it drags this stuff out. And I'll say,
bankrupt yourself.
Yeah, you bankrupt yourself. And I'll say, for the most part, plaintiffs' lawyers, they're a little bit discouraged when they don't see that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And that's kind of where we're at with these two bills we want to talk about today.
Right. They are discouraged, but they'll still litigate it for a couple of years, thinking that there is actually some insurance policy somewhere they're going to get their hands on.
Right. Or if a homeowner, let's say a homeowner turns you down, you get a judgment against them, they can still go back to your homeowners and say, you should have been in here originally, and that's a whole nother case.
Right. So here's the thing. And I know that I say this as a criminal defense attorney, and criminal defense attorneys are generally attorneys that no one really likes until you really need one. But Plaintiff's attorneys are a lot like drug dealers. So your
Where
drug
are you going? Where are you going with this one?
so your drug dealers, they build a whole lot of bullshit costs into the cost of doing business, right? And that includes getting arrested, bonding out, hiring a lawyer, having to do your probation fees, or maybe even a little time in prison, knowing that being a drug dealer is so stinking lucrative that they can do it, and it's just a cost of doing business, and they're still going to make a ton of money in the end.
All right, I'm with you.
That's a plaintiff's lawyer. So they collect all of these cases, and some of them are stinkers and they're not going to go anywhere, and they don't find an insurance policy, and ultimately it goes away after a couple of years, but they just get so much easy money that that's the cost of doing business. So they're going to pick up that bullshit case against you, and they're going to prosecute. You can tell I really hate plaintiff's lawyers. And they're going to prosecute it because cost of doing business. If they end up not getting anything on that one, well, I got a couple $100,000 on this other case where I didn't do any work, so it all comes out in the wash.
Yeah, and so that's where we're going to talk about two important bills today, and this is where we need your help. If you're a resident here in the state of Texas, we have action items for you.
Yes.
We want you to call your state representative, your state senator, and tell them to join on to these two pieces of legislation. It's HB 170 by Ryan Guillen and HB 1730 by Senator Bob Hall. And these are, this is kind of my catchphrase every time the legislature is in session, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Mm-hmm. And these bills are looking at adding some teeth to our immunity protections that we have. This was designed originally to, hey, guess what? You shouldn't be suing self-defenders. Well, that's what, and I will say it held on for quite a period of time. But in the last 2 years, we have seen probably a 5-fold increase in self-defenders getting sued across the state. So we got to do something. We got to change this. And so I think a good one to start with is HB 170 by Representative Guillen, Chairman Guillen. This is a fantastic bill. You got to call your lawmaker, tell them to join on to this.
Yes. So what we're doing here, we can talk about HB 170 first, is essentially that if you are justified under the criminal system, if you are not criminally liable, then you get your attorney's fees once this frivolous lawsuit filed against you, once it's determined that you indeed, in fact, acted within the justification statute. So it's not what we have now, which is just, hey, you're not liable for damages. You don't have to
write a check.
It's, hey, plaintiff's lawyer and co.
Get out your checkbook.
You get out your checkbook. You believe so, right? So that completely takes away the incentive of like, oh, it's all going to come out in the wash when these guys are having to actually foot your attorney's bills. Plus, it protects you too.
Yeah, so recover reasonable attorney's fees, court costs, lost income, and other expenses incurred by the defendant in connection with the action. Yeah. So
lost income is great.
So you think about, all right, I have this client come in, sign on because I'm getting sued. I have this self-defense case. How much relief it is. We've told them for time after time. Guess what? You're going to be immune from damages, assuming all this comes out in court. Well, now it goes an even further step towards like, hey, guess what? Yes, there's always risks in trial. Juries are wild animals, but there's a chance that you get all your money back.
Right. And that's huge. That's huge. I mean, I cannot imagine the fear involved in having to go hire your own attorney for one of these cases, knowing that you are going to spend every dime you have defending something that is completely meritless.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I can imagine, but like it really is just utterly absurd.
Well, and then I think, and I would hope that the insurance firms kind of pick up on this as well.
Yes.
To say, all right, we know that there's a, nuisance cost. Maybe we could cut this thing loose for 50 grand because then we're only going to be out 50 grand. Well, now that number goes way down because, hey, look, ultimately we can evaluate this and think if we're going to recover this, we're going to stand by this guy's side to the very, very end.
Sure.
Yeah, so I really hope that happens. Now, all right, HB 170 by Chairman Ryan Guillen. Contact your lawmaker, your state representative. Tell them to sign on to that one. Really important. Now, like we said, multiple ways to skin a cat. We have HB 1730 by Senator Bob Hall. This does something very similar, but it uses some different mechanisms that I think are really fascinating.
Yes. So here we've got a very specific way to determine what is justified, which things like getting no billed by the grand jury.
Yeah, getting acquitted by a jury.
Getting acquitted. A dismissal, right? And that is extraordinarily helpful because the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
You're not relitigating it. So
yeah,
it's It's good.
Yeah, res judicata. This thing
Res
has already
judicata.
been decided. It is a thing decided.
Yeah.
So, but you see, all right, we have these clear delineation points where, guess what? The system cut this guy loose because they acted in justified defense. Why should, and I'll say, these people who are suing self-defenders, they are
people.
they are scumbags. They are such scumbags. Because it'll be like, hey, you know what? I robbed your liquor store and you shot me, and now I'm in a wheelchair. I'm gonna sue you in the liquor store.
Right.
I mean, it's like,
best case scenario.
You're a criminal.
Yeah, no, best case scenario, it's the mama of a scumbag, which, you know.
I get it.
Yeah, I know your baby was actually on his way to church. He definitely wasn't gonna go home invade that guy. I mean, yes.
He wasn't on TikTok live streaming the robberies.
Right.
Totally
exactly.
wasn't doing that.
So, I mean, yeah, best case scenario, you're the mama of a scumbag. And still, like, I'm sorry, as someone who has children myself, who I desperately hope don't grow up to be scumbags. Like, I understand, but it doesn't mean that you get to take advantage of the guy who was just protecting himself from your baby. Sorry.
Yeah. So this one has these kind of clear delineation points and says that a claimant may not recover damages for personal injury or death that results in a defendant's acts constituting the use of force or deadly force if, and then we kind of list out those conditions. Now, what makes this one a little bit different, I'll say HB 170 expands it to the threats of force, which I didn't think we needed to do that in Texas because theoretically, if you just threaten somebody with force, you don't have any damages. But now all these people are saying
they're suing anyway.
I have emotional trauma. So I'll say HB 170, fantastic in that regard. HB 170, what it does really well also is it covers, reasonable attorney's fees, expenses, court costs, and let's say lost income, maybe even the way that thing is worded. Yeah. This one is just reasonable attorney's fees. And so.
But that's the bulk of it.
Yeah, that is the bulk of it, the vast majority of it. So. I think both of these are great pieces of legislation. I think we got to get these two bills in a room together.
We do.
And synthesize.
Yes, I will say, because we should have said this earlier. We were remiss. These are GOA-backed bills.
Yeah.
Gun Owners of America in Texas is doing the Lord's work for you guys. And I'm not just saying that because it's Richard and I who are out there helping lead the charge. But for real, this is, if you are not a member of Gun Owners of America, I recommend that you do so. It costs like $25 and it just, man, we pound the pavement and we try to get this stuff done. So
yeah, we just had our lobby day.
Yes.
And so this is a perfect time to make a call. If your state representative is not Ryan Guillen or if your senator's not Bob Hall, because they're authors. I mean, they're the ones pushing these things. Your lawmaker needs to jump onto this.
Oh yeah, I'm calling you, Greg.
Greg.
He's yours too.
Yeah, I know. We'll see. Well, I'll get Greg on this one.
Yeah.
But these are really important because, yes, we need good, strong self-defense laws for criminal cases. Guess what? You don't want to lose everything you've worked for your entire life because some scumbag plaintiff's lawyer thinks that they can get your homeowner's insurance to cut a check. We don't want any of that stuff. So HB 170 by Chairman Guillen, Senator Bob Hall, 1730. These are really a step in the right direction. But we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
And please keep watching for more updates on Texas law and where we need you. Until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.